Master Coach Apostle Courtney McLean and Business Coach Zidane Sinister are powered up to share their expertise on the business end. But don't forget to tell a friend or a colleague, and of course have your tools on hand, your notebook and your pen. Classes are in session every Tuesday, 3:30 on Gospel JA for the business end. Master Coach Apostle Courtney McLean and Business Coach Zidane Sinister await you.
Welcome to the business end. My name is Courtney McLean, pastor of Worship and Faith International Fellowship, and also the CEO of Courtney McLean SMC Services, that's Speaking, Mentorship, and Coaching Services. We believe that God has placed a business within many persons, and many believers are hesitant to rise up and to start that business. Yes, some of you are actually in business, and God wants you to pull that business to the next level. With me today is my co-host, my friend, my brother, one of the members of Worship and Faith International Fellowship, Zidane Sinister. He's a business coach. He has a wealth of experience. We have a special guest also who he will introduce to you in a little bit. But here what we want for you to do. We want for you to know that you can communicate with us online. Know that there are numbers that we're going to give you a little bit later on that you can call and send those messages in. Give us your greatest takeaway. Stay engaged because it's time for the next level. We want to finish 2023 strong. Welcome, Zidane. Welcome. How are you?
I am great, Apostle, and I just feel that there are some listeners out there who wants to finish 2023 great, and you should finish 2023 strong. Finish 2023 strong. There may be a business inside of you that is willing to unbirth, and now is the time for you to unbirth that business. And we are on the business end to ensure we provide that platform for you to give birth to that business. I have in studio Dr. Ijah Thompson. He's the CEO of Essential Medical Services, the leader of We Thrive at Work. And he's better to tell you more about him. But he has been a doctor for 20 years.
Wow. But he looks like 20.
He looks like 20, Apostle. But he has also been in business, directing people, organization, health, and professionalism training. He has been in that field about over 10 years. And he's also a man that is after God's heart. He's a humanitarian. We have in studio a man of God, Dr. Ijah Thompson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me, Zidane and Apostle McLean. It's certainly a pleasure to be here.
Yes, a pleasure to have you, sir. And I am hoping that the listeners will be able to feast upon the knowledge that he is about to impart upon you. But let me start it here. Who is the essential medical services and We Thrive at Work?
Well, Zidane, I was impressed by how you say who.
Yes.
Who is. When we think about business a lot of times, it's really what do we do that tend to come to mind. But it's so important, I believe, that anyone who's going into business should really get the essence about who you become while you go in business. So who is Essential Medical Services? I believe that we are the best care option that is available anywhere. That is who we are. We also, though, look at how we can deliver that. And how we deliver it is through health services, wellness services, and organizational development services.
Quite a list of services, Apostle. But I wonder, how did a doctor wind up into all of those services?
That's a good question. That's a good question. What prompted you to start this business? What's the vision? Because the vision speaks to the why. And you said something a while ago. Who we become
as we go through
the business.
Indeed.
I want for you to in telling us what prompted you to start the business, I want for you to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, for everyone who's out there that, has an interest in business, a lot of times when we dream about our business, we really don't think about the person we need to become to make that business successful. And I certainly learned that along the way. That while I started with a dream of being able to improve the way in which health, as a matter of fact, let me be honest, right? Let me be honest. I thought that, healthcare was something you got into it and you took care of people and they got better. And the reality is that people just kept coming back, whether you're diabetic, they're hypertensive, and otherwise. And as a doctor, I just say, you know what? This can't continue. We have to find another way. And so 10 years ago, I took a leap of faith and said, tell you what, let me go see what is out there. Let me try and figure out if there's something I can do outside of sit and just write prescriptions each day. And going out there, I connected with organizations and I recognized that, hey, the workplace is a space that we could really make a big impact. After all, this is where the decision makers are. And if all the decision makers out there are in some workplace, then chances are I could make an impact. And this is where the wellness story began. But of course, I recognized that I had to grow into somebody that could really meet that mission. Not just somebody who could run a business, but to recognize that, in the workplace is really a space for development. And as human beings, as adults, most of us, when we got to that maximum height, at 18, that's where development stopped, or where college finished, right? And so for me, I started to realize that if we're going to really help people to do better with their health, do better with their well-being, then we also have to help them develop. Now, I wasn't at that stage yet. And so I had to learn to become and develop into that person that could run a successful business, meet my purpose, meet my calling in life, and at the same time help others to do the same.
That's just authentic. That's very humble. That's just, I've never heard it like that.
Yes, so he says he got developed in order to develop others.
Yeah.
And an organization is where you develop.
Yes.
Many of us, we employ persons thinking that they are coming inside the organization with the skill set and the talent that is needed.
But they need to be developed.
I don't want to let the cat out of the bag as yet. So Dr. Ija, a lot of organizations have, let's just say, developed and started departments that are geared towards health and wellness. What would you say to a listener who has a business and may think that they're not necessarily at the stage of development required to have such the focus on healthness and wellness? What do you say to that business owner? Is it that it is only a certain stage of development business requires this, or it is all type of business and all stages?
Yeah, that's a question that I face quite often. As a matter of fact, I'm often asked to speak to CEOs, how can we get a wellness program in? And of course, in assisting persons to think about how programs can be started, a lot of times they become surprised by my answer. Because I always say, you can literally without a budget run a very powerful and effective wellness program. I say, well, Doc, so I don't want to pay you, right? But the truth is...
That's my first question.
That's the first question, right? Why would they want, if you can do it, right?
Yeah.
And, yes, so there is this, we see things happen in the world, and seeing things happen in the world, we see that this is the norm, and we believe that we should follow the norm. Now, I'm not going to tell you that if you do want to have programs that are proactive, that really go above and beyond, that it won't cost a budget to do that. But I do believe that any organization, especially I do believe for young entrepreneurs who have a small team, they need to recognize that it is through the ability of their team members to develop, and literally, let me just reverse back and say this. Literally the word wellness, if you break it in two parts, well and ness, the ness means being and the well means good. And so put them together, it means being good. And literally what we do in wellness is help people to be better and help them to become their better state. And so to help persons to be better and to become their best, it's not something that you require a budget to be put in place to begin that process. You really just have to have within your heart the recognition that the reason why someone comes to work is to be better. And so we can start to have that dialogue about how can we help our people to be better physically, mentally, spiritually, occupationally. And if we can begin those conversations and start to create opportunities for persons to converse, then what you find is that that process of wellness begins.
So we need to create a culture of health and wellness.
You stole the words.
Oh, mighty God.
You know, one of the things I always said, as you said, that most of our awake time is spent at work.
Mighty.
So true. So true.
So if most of our awake time is spent at work, and we can develop a culture in the workplace where people can get better, where we can hold each other accountable, where coaching is taking place, mentorship is taking place in that space, we'll have a better Jamaica, better world, but it requires that level of commitment. And I believe that's what your organization offers, a framework in which
If I could fit into that,
Yes.
because you put an important point on the table. As we think about all business owners that are there, that are looking towards, how can I help my business to function at its best? Having persons like myself, will help you to organize, make it the most effective and efficient it can be. But it's so critical that, as Apostle McLean mentioned, that we recognize that in a 24-hour day, most of our awake time, more than half of our awake time, is spent at work. And if we invest 10 hours of our day, well, 7 hours of our day to sleep, 10 hours towards traveling and being at work, then we have but only a few hours left over. And when you think about the different dimensions of wellness, even if you use the base model of 8 dimensions, you could never do that in the residual 5 hours that is thereafter.
Wow.
So it's so important that everyone recognize that wellness is something that must occur at work. Another thing is that we spend most of our productive time across our life working. And so if we say, okay, we're going to do it after we retire, it just won't be there either, right?
So Dr. Ijo, what you're basically saying to business leaders and colleagues in the business space, that if you invest in the health and wellness of your staff, since they spend a lot of their time there, you're actually creating a total well man and woman that is able to function properly so that the productivity would increase. You're making a linear relationship between their health and wellness of an individual and their productivity, and by and large, the profitability and sustainability of a company. I want you to look in the camera and I want you to speak to that business owner, telling that business owner that your greatest resource
Is your people.
is your people.
So
and
true.
what does it mean for them?
So true. We talk so much about, health and wellness a lot of times from a very closed mind, right? We think about our physical health, our exercise, our diet. But you use a very powerful word, which is holistic or whole person. When we're not rounded as a person, in other words, if we just focus on our exercise and we focus on our sleep, but we miss the fact that we're not spiritually developed, we don't have a purpose, or we're not occupationally developed, we can't manage stress, or we can't develop ourselves in terms of our career, then what we find is that person now develops a longing. And some people like to talk about midlife crisis, or they talk about someone who they just make decisions that they just don't know where they're coming from. But this is when someone is out of balance. And so that holistic approach is important. And so definitely that is where persons like myself come in to help you to look at it. But definitely it's something, as I said to you earlier, it's something that we can do in ways that don't require a star budget.
That's solid.
Yes.
That's solid. I'm loving this, I'm
Yes,
loving this.
yes.
Dr. Ija Thompson, but he saw a need. And this is something that wasn't being done in the space a lot. And he decided, I am going to grow in order to offer this service. Grow with my business. This is Dr. Ija Thompson we're talking with of Essential Services. And he saw where prescriptions were being written, but persons were coming back with the same challenges. And so he decided, here is a need. let me create a business, let me create a framework to meet this need. Now watch this. When it was created, he had the concept and the idea, but he had to grow and evolve in order to make it what it was really supposed to be. Did I get that right? Did I
You got it
encapsulate that
perfectly,
right?
yes.
Yeah, yeah. So there are many of you, sometimes what God wants you to start, it doesn't mean you have the full knowledge of it. Am I right, Zidane? Sometimes you grow as you go.
Yes. So Dr. I just saw a need, saw an opportunity, and expanded himself to go into that need and solve that problem. Many a times we have an idea, but we decide that we're going to start the business without knowing that learning and growth is very important. Your business or your business idea will stop at where you stop growing, or you stop learning. You have to continue to grow in order to make your business grow. Thank you.
That's big. That's big. But one of the things that I want to add to that is that there's something you call paralysis that comes from over analyzing. Paralysis analysis. You analyze until you're paralyzed. I prefer if people have the concept and start and then evolve as you go. Don't wait until everything perfect. You're on the business end, and we are talking to Dr. Ija Thompson of Essential Services, and he's dropping some mega nuggets here. Doc, we thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thank you for being who you are, and thank you for doing what you're doing. As we continue our discussion, how does one measure the success of the implementation of these solutions in their businesses? Because you're talking about implementing and creating a new culture where wellness, well-being is embraced. How would they measure the success of the implementation of these solutions?
You know, again, that's another thing that I find that comes up as a common question, right? And I believe that there are certain mindsets around how persons look at wellness that let them start to think about, whether or not this is something I want to get into. Do I need numbers, or should I just simply look at what is happening? What I say is that, if you have the right mindset around wellness, helping people to be better, become their best, then it starts to say to us that we're really concerned about an appreciation of how humane our organization is. How are we really helping people to really move forward? Now, we may have an interest, depending on the level of your organization, in knowing, are we doing well with the physical activities? Are we doing well with the stress management? Are we doing well with people development? And there are numerous measures for that out there. We do have a measure that we call the Thrive Plus measure. That is very useful to look at well-being, burnout, stress, and otherwise at work. But there are a host of things that are used, whether engagement surveys, satisfaction surveys, and otherwise. But these are definitely just dependent on what you're keenly interested in. I always encourage, every single leader I sit with to look at the vision that they have, the objectives that they have, their programs, and really just step back to, what do you want the day-to-day experience to be for each individual? And if you could sit with each individual and have a conversation about how work is and how are they experiencing your organization, then I believe that's the best start point. It's more so about that human life and human living that is occurring. And if we experience work as the place we want to be, we love to say we love to say the phrase, I love my job, and we want to hear it, right? But of course, it is, do I enjoy being here? Do I enjoy the people I'm working with? Do I enjoy our work experiences? Are good start questions to know how our programs are working.
And that would have to be a part of the vision of the organization to set that kind of a tone. Because if it's not coming from the top, most of the times, it can't be maintained.
Certainly. And, you really want to get that sense of appreciation that, when a program is being done, it's not just being done to make us more profitable or to, try to create that space that the problems that were there is gone. This is really about us recognizing our humanity and recognizing that as human beings, we have this natural drive to develop. As a matter of fact, the stories are told in the Bible, about how we are provided with different talents, right? And those of us who build our talents are those who receive more in return. So those stories help us to understand we're naturally here to develop and grow. And in so doing, an organization, once we recognize this human need and we recognize the human limitations, then we put that investment in a very genuine way.
Deep. I'm loving it. Go ahead,
But
Zidane.
you see,
Go ahead. Go
Dr.
ahead.
Ija, I must throw something in the spokes. You are making business sound very rosy and lovely and just nice and sweet. That means you have never encountered any challenges in business, have you, Dr. Ija? And if you have encountered any challenges, how have you dealt with those?
I've been in business for 10 years now, right? And I would never tell anyone that there aren't challenges to business. I started off with saying, that I had to grow into the person that I needed to become. But as it is with anyone who is going on a journey that is their life's calling, that is their purpose, that God doesn't give his weakest warriors the lightest duties, right? And you see these as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. So I had to learn basic things like, how to do my books properly. I had to learn how to relate to my team and build my team properly. I had to learn how to navigate times like COVID and otherwise. And so all business owners, I believe, will have to prepare themselves for those. But when you are on a journey that's God's calling for you, then nothing is an obstacle. Everything is a part of the process to being a good servant.
You're why.
I think you should come and be one of the assistant pastors, right? All right, Doc. What are some of the triumphs, some of the mega things, the high points that you have experienced?
I have had the opportunity to be a part of bringing standards to Jamaica when it comes to workplace wellness. We've had a chance to win national awards. But I must say, of all the things that I do cherish the most, it's really the person-to-person experience. I do believe and I do share that in every business that, our every customer is our only customer. And to be able to serve them and see them appreciate that value and receive a value that they do desire, it is for me my greatest triumph. So Christmas time, when those plans come in, my birthdays, when those messages come in, and continuously as you hear from each and every team member, the feedback from customers that have been served and team members that appreciate our work environment. These are the things I think are our biggest triumph, to be able to do that on a daily basis.
This gentleman is a humanitarian at the highest level.
In every sense of the word. But before we go, what's next? What's next for Essential Medical Services and We Strive at Work? What's next?
I said it in the beginning, who are we? We are the best care experience anywhere. And anywhere means across the globe. It has been our vision, and we continue to hold it as who we are. And we see ourselves being able to deliver that as the care experience that everyone, no matter where you are, can return to Jamaica and know that Essential Medical Services will provide the best care. For We Thrive at Work, we're building standards. We're building standards for workplace wellness. We're building standards for resilience, stress, burnout. How can organizations better develop well-being in their workplaces? You'd have heard about our Thrive Plus assessments. These are things that we look forward to Jamaica being recognized globally for.
Wonderful.
How do we get in touch with you? Where are you located?
Yeah, so, for us online, you can always pick us up at our website for Essential Medical Services and We Thrive at Work. But of course, you can always use the number 771-7723, and our team will be happy to connect you in.
Awesome. Could you run that number by us again?
So that's 771-7723,
Yes.
and our team will be happy to connect
And I
you in.
believe they are Googleable. I learned that on this program, the business end. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Dr. Ija Thompson.
It is my pleasure.
Listen, you are making waves, you are creating an impact, and we are proud of what you represent and what you're doing. Thank you so much, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me,
God
Apostle.
bless you.
Thank
God
you,
bless
Zidane.
you. God
Bless
bless
you.
you. All right, give us the gems.
Before we go, just to say a few nuggets in which Dr. Ija has related to us today. First, invest in your health and wellness within your organization. You will create an holistic man, and that holistic man will be there to support your business, to support himself, and he will also be more productive. More productive business is a joy to be at, and he says focus on joy rather than I love my job. It's a joy to be at your job if you invest in your organization health and strength. He says continuous learning. Learn, improve, grow, develop, so that you can develop your business and develop your staff. Human resources says is your greatest investment. Invest in your development of your staff, and they will grow with the business and allow the business to grow. He also says, listen, take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves. It doesn't cost anything to implement a culture of wellness and health. He says it's just by the way you speak, by the way you show love, it's by the way you make the environment fitting for work. He says create that environment. It costs you nothing at the start, and you can improve your business by doing such. We are out of time. However, I want you to contact us, want to follow us at The Business End Show on YouTube, on Instagram, on our TikTok pages. It is at The Business End. Come over, like, share, comment. We will interact with you. And until next time, this has been another episode of The Business End. Continue to be your increasing best. Thank you.
We love you. God bless you.
Master Coach Apostle Courtney McLean and Business Coach Zidane Sinister are powered up to share their expertise on the business end. But don't forget to tell a friend or a colleague, and of course have your tools on hand, your notebook and your pen. Classes are in session every Tuesday, 3:30 on Gospel JA for the business end. Master Coach Apostle Courtney McLean and Business Coach Zidane Sinister await you.